The Xbox news is absolutely out of control. Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is RandL419, the man with the million, back again with another video. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Could you guys hit the like button and the subscribe button, please? I know this video is coming out really late at night, but I have my family over. My brother Ryan, my nephews Ollie and Wesley are here, and Ollie told me earlier today that I was his favorite YouTuber even over Mr. Beast, which brought a huge smile to my face. But because family's here, it's a little bit harder to make content, but it is late at night, everybody's gone or sleeping, so we can talk about the absolutely insane things that are happening in the world of Xbox. The last couple of videos, we've been talking about the FTC trial, how Phil Spencer completely embarrassed the FTC, and all the juicy information that came out about why Microsoft decided to buy Bethesda in the first place, and all those sweet little lies Jim Ryan was telling regulators about how the PlayStation business would never recover. We've gone over all that stuff to death, but today we did get some more juicy information because the FTC uploaded some emails from the leadership team of Xbox, and we have a behind-the-scenes look at Xbox actually wanting to acquire Sega. They were putting the gears in motion to actually do that, among some other huge bombshells, like a new Xbox exclusive getting revealed, and how Xbox essentially, or at least Matt Booty, wanted to outspend Sony and put them out of business. There's a lot here to talk about. So starting off, we have an email here from Matt Booty, the head of Xbox Game Studios, talking to Tim Stewart, who is the CFO of Xbox. He is the man that holds the money and the purse strings, and Matt's replying to Tim in an email that we can't see, where Matt goes on to say, "Thanks for sharing, a lot to digest here. We'll read it in detail." And he goes on to say, "A different view to the general view below might be that we, Microsoft, are in a very unique position to be able to go spend Sony out of business. If we think that video game content matters in 10 years, we might look back and say, totally would have been worth it to lose $2 billion or $3 billion in 2020 to avoid a situation where Tencent, Google, Amazon, or even Sony have become the Disney of games and own most of the valuable content. For example, it is practically impossible for anyone to start a new video streaming service at scale at this point. What content do you base it on? Things like Hulu and CBS All Access will be trivial players in the space. In games, Google is 3 to 4 years away from being able to have a studio up and running, and Amazon has shown no ability to execute on game content. Content is the one moat that we have in terms of a catalog that runs on current devices and capability to create new. Sony is really the only other player who could compete with Game Pass, and we have a 2-year and 10 million sub lead. If we reverse course on day and date, it's going to be hard to convince folks that things like Mixer or xCloud have much of a chance of surviving scrutiny either. Now, the FTC is using this email as evidence in the case to present the idea here that Matt Booty talked about spending Sony out of business, as they need to argue to the judge that the injunction is needed because Microsoft and this merger with ABK will cause harm for competition and consumers. So this is one of those emails where, like, see, look, they totally have evil plans. But even though the very beginning of the email, Matt's saying he has a different view of everything else compared to the Microsoft view, Matt Booty wants to totally spend Sony out of business and lose $3 billion because he feels that they are set up in a very unique position. He throws Google completely under the bus and says they won't have studios up and running for 3 to 4 years. And considering this email's in 2019, well, I mean, they shut down a couple years later, and then basically says Amazon ain't nothing to worry about either because they've shown they don't understand content. So it's really about Sony, and they have a lead in all these things. So it's kind of very interesting to get a behind-the-scenes look at some of the discussions that goes on and the viewpoint of one individual at Microsoft versus maybe the corporate strategy of Xbox in general. And at least according to Stephen Totilo, Microsoft commented on the Booty email by saying, "This email is 3.5 years old and predates the announcement of our acquisition by 25 months. It refers to industry trends we never pursued and is unrelated to the acquisition. And that's the thing Xbox is really going to talk about, is that it's unrelated to ABK because they weren't targeting ABK in 2019. They didn't even know ABK was going to be acquirable until 2021. So even though one person's viewpoint, a thought process about what they should do in 2019 doesn't really hold water in this court case, it does point to Matt Booty having a very aggressive mindset about we need to go spend this money because we're in this very special position. And you know what? Microsoft has been very aggressive. Let's not downplay it. They spent $7 billion for Bethesda in 2020 and then trying to spend $70 billion on Activision. That's almost $80 billion on two publishers. Granted, that's not really going to put PlayStation out of business, and I don't know exactly what Microsoft would have to do to spend Sony out of business. I don't know if that means going out and basically getting timed exclusive for everything or putting all the games on Game Pass or whatever, but just buying Bethesda and Activision Blizzard doesn't do that. However, it does reinforce the idea that Microsoft is all in on gaming and that they're willing to spend a ton of money, because we haven't even got to the future acquisitions list, or at least all the companies that Microsoft were considering acquiring before the opportunity of ABK happened. Xbox wanted to get not only Bungie, but Sega. And you know what? After ABK's done, who's to say they don't go after Sega again and all these other companies? Let's talk about it now. So here we can see an email from Phil Spencer to basically everyone important at Microsoft. Amy Hood, CEO Satya Nadella, and the subject is requesting for strategy approval to purchase Sega. And Phil goes on to say that I'm ready to request strategy approval to approach Sega Sammy regarding a potential acquisition of their Sega gaming studios. For context, Bill and I have reviewed the business case for acquiring Sega and are both supportive. We believe that Sega has built a well-balanced portfolio of games across segments with global geographic appeal and will help us accelerate Xbox Game Pass both on and off console. Please find the attached memo and bullets below for additional details on our strategy to prioritize our next acquisition target, a brief overview of Sega's gaming portfolio, and the value drivers for the potential acquisition. As the Sega gaming studios are owned by Sega Sammy, a publicly traded Japanese company, we have called out a few deal complexities in the memo. Sega's gaming has represented roughly half of Sega Sammy's revenue and operating income, or $900 million of revenue, and $60 to $90 million of operating income in each of Sega Sammy's last 3 fiscal years. The team is coordinating closely with the CELA on the next steps if we were to receive SA. Please let us know if you have any questions or concerns, blah, 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 blah. And it says prioritizing acquisition targets. To help inform our next strategic acquisition target, we have identified top priority segment and geographic combinations for Xbox in order: PC in North America and Europe, mobile in North America and Europe, and console and PC in APAC. Keeping in mind these leading priorities, we evaluated a set of targets, both individually and in combination of our own studios, to determine the best strategic fit. Sega is the most attractive next acquisition target due to its global PC catalog, presence on mobile in Asia, and global brand affinity on console through its classic IPs. And here you can see the consideration set of developers and publishers that Microsoft were kind of game planning about maybe they could acquire. Now, there's a ton of companies here. Obviously, a lot of these would never happen, but you can't help but look at this and just say, man, Xbox was literally looking at everyone. You have publishers like 505 Games, Devolver Digital, Focus Home, Raw Fury, Sega, and Team 17. But independent developers like From Software and CD Projekt Red, I mean, just take a look at this whole list. You know, as a company like Xbox, always looking for the next thing, always looking for the next strategic acquisition to help with whatever they're doing in the different areas of the world, plus in the PC space, they probably looked at every publisher, they probably looked at all the different developers and listed a whole bunch of different reasons, pros, cons, how much it would cost, and what would be the reasons to get it. And we have all of it right here. This is the consideration set. They boiled that down to the final list of the 17 top candidates for consideration on console PC, with developers of Behavior Interactive, who make Dead by Daylight, Housemarque, which made Returnal and eventually got acquired by PlayStation, People Can Fly, the developers behind Outriders, and also just recently announced that they're making a new game with Xbox. Could that have acquisition hooks within it, where if the development and the game turn out good, maybe Xbox would explore an acquisition of People Can Fly? As well as Remedy Entertainment, Microsoft worked with them on Alan Wake and Quantum Break, but they seem to be doing pretty good right now. Keep in mind, all this stuff is from 2021. Now, other developers that they were looking at are 11-Bit Studios, Bohemia Interactive, Bungie, which, if you were listening to the Xbox 2, me and Jez were saying that Microsoft was talking to Bungie for an acquisition, and it clearly looks like they wanted to. Crytek, IO Interactive, which we got confirmation that Project Dragon is an Xbox exclusive. We'll get to that a little bit later. Larian Studios, Manticore Games, Playdead, Rebellion, Thunderful, and Supergiant Games, alongside publishers like Paradox Interactive and Sega. And then you have the mergers and acquisition final watch list, where they talk about the gap and the assets of the companies and why they would acquire them, like Thunderful, which would be for audience expansion, and they have expertise in cross-gen casual mobile games. You can see all this stuff on screen. Supergiant Games, the makers of Hades, Niantic, who I believe make Pokemon Go, and they say very strong technology infrastructure, focus on XR and innovative mobile experiences. Playtrix and Zigna, which are mobile publishers or mobile developers, which is one of the reasons why Microsoft, after seeing all this stuff and then realizing ABK was available at 2021, dropped all this in a heartbeat, because a lot of things that Xbox was looking for, mobile presence, PC presence, Game Pass, console, ABK covers them all, where certain other developers and publishers maybe cover a small section, but not the whole thing. That's why Xbox jumped on it. But then Bungie, they wanted for engagement and social interaction, audience expansion. IO Interactive, which maybe there's some acquisition hooks in with Project Dragon or Project Fantasy. It's really mind-blowing to get a behind-the-scenes look at all this information. All right, so we saw that Matt Booty wanted to outspend Sony and put them out of business. We've seen Phil's email to Satya Nadella about getting approval to acquire Sega that eventually was put on the back burner. We've seen the slides that show the developers that were on Microsoft watch lists and the ones that made it to the final cut, the ones that they really were looking at. But another thing I just wanted to briefly mention was IO Interactive, who made that final cut. I think Microsoft should purchase them if their game goes really well. And you can see here in the company overview for IO Interactive that IO is currently developing Project 007 as well as Project Dragon for Xbox Global Publishing. You can see the expected release and previously shipped games. Project 007 still to be determined on the release as well as the platforms, but Project Dragon is listed there. We don't know when it's coming. However, the platforms are listed as PC and Xbox Series X and S, and it's an RPG shooter. So another Xbox exclusive revealed. We had Indiana Jones during the trial about how that is now an Xbox and PC game day one on Game Pass. And now we have confirmation, at least back in 2021, that IO Interactive was working on Project Dragon for Xbox Game Studios. And it seems that that game has turned into Project Fantasy because the code name leaked. So a lot of stuff going on here. I'm going to have to end the video because family's around. But if you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button. Please subscribe. Check out the Patreon for the Xbox 2 in the description below. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.